What up, welcome back to Woodward Heavyweights live on WoodwardSports.com. I'm your boy Easy, joined by my guy Spimo Rex, Young Chris. We got the Yin Yang podcast with us, but we are also joined by the host of Locked On Pistons, my guy, Khahil. What up, man? Appreciate you taking the time to join us. How you been?
What's going on, man? What's going on? How you guys doing?
Pretty good. Appreciate hearing from you, brother. And obviously, yesterday the big news broke about the president of basketball operations being signed, and I took some heat because I did not pronounce his name correctly. But what I was saying was that I think Pterodactyl Lingerie is going to be a good basketball mind in that office, but I don't think he's going to be given the opportunity to, just like we saw Troy Weaver not given the full reins.
Well, I want to say I also caught heat, correctly so, because I should know how to pronounce his name. I should have done my work. But I did also catch heat for not pronouncing Trajon name correctly on the podcast yesterday. So you're not the only one. But I will say, I think some of the stuff that's being said about Trajon and Arntellum, I think it's more so who's really getting the strays here. I think some of it is going a little too far and kind of leaving the bounds of reality at this point. But I think it's reasonable for anybody to have second thoughts or obviously concerns about how this team is going to be run and how it has been run. Obviously, I mean, the last 4 years they've been the worst team in the NBA. So I mean, I don't see any problem with that. I just think that some of the things that have been said have been a little bit, I don't think, based in reality. But I mean, I get the concerns. I mean, how can you not have concerns? This team just won 14 games.
And that's what it is. I think he's a great basketball mind. I think he'll be good at his job, but how many times are we going to give them this leash of, like, Troy Weaver was a great basketball mind. He was a great hire on paper. It didn't work out. Monty Williams, he was a great basketball mind, a great hire on paper. It didn't work out. I just don't have faith that this one hire is going to be different.
I mean, I don't think that – I think this hire shouldn't – I mean, at least for me – but for Pistons fans, I don't think this hire should automatically like restore all the faith in the Pistons and be like, oh, now here we come. Like, that's not – I mean, I agree with that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that has to be done with this roster, and this team has to do a lot to gain the trust of the fan base back. Like, there is a lot that needs to be done for the fan base to care, for season ticket holders to re-up, to – you know, there's a lot of things that have to be done, and just simply hiring a president of basketball operations isn't enough. Like, what is going to happen with Troy? What's going to happen with Monty? What are they going to do with the draft pick coming up? What are they going to do in free agency? Are they going to get active in the trade market? How are they going to build around Cade? Which of the young core is staying? Are they being patient with the young core? Do they have a unified vision instead of having so many cooks in the kitchen where it feels like you can't really figure out what the exact vision is because you feel like you're looking at 5 different people's views? Like, they have a lot of stuff that has to happen for sure. So I don't expect anyone to, I mean, I'm not, but I don't expect anyone to just all of a sudden have blind trust in this front office or in the organization so far. But what I will say about Trajon is I think that he is a good hire on paper, like you said. I think he's a good hire. He's paid his dues, started off as a scout, eventually was assistant GM, and then also has been the GM of the Pelicans since 2019. I've liked some of the things he's done in New Orleans, especially how he's really put emphasis on wings and two-way wings, which is something the Pistons haven't had since I feel like I was born, at least since Tayshaun Prince.
Yeah, for real.
So it's like I like the hire on paper, but yeah, they have a lot to prove, obviously.
Yeah, I like what you said with like too many cooks in the kitchen. It's felt like Arn and Tom have been the master chefs. Like, they've been the ones that overreach and make these decisions. Like, I'll never forget at the press conference when Troy was asked, "Can you see you guys finally making the playoffs?" He literally was like, "Ask him." Pointed to Tom. Like, he didn't want to hire Monty. It wasn't his thing. But do you think with Trajon, look at him, you think he'll actually get a fair shake, his opportunity to like make the decisions, make the decisions that he wants to? Troy Weaver, that is.
We've been saying different names every time.
We were trolling him now with the names because it got so butthurt about the first time.
No, but I wasn't joking. I actually did catch heat for that.
Yeah, me too.
We did
yeah,
too.
Yesterday, I said Trajon Langdon, and everybody's like, "You don't even know his name, or you don't know a ball at all." I was like, "Oh, bro, come on. It broke during my show."
Yeah, I mean,
Tyron Liquidator.
I should have known his name, but I didn't follow college basketball at all. I didn't even know he played at Duke until his name popped up.
He played at Duke when I was 2 years old. You expect me to know it? Like, come on.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I think I feel like in a few years, this is just what I believe. I think maybe even this offseason, but I think at least in the next few years, I think fans will start to hear more of what really went on and what really happened with this front office and how things went so sideways. I think a lot of it right now is a lot of like speculating and reading between the lines and trying to piece stuff together. Because yeah, did Troy have complete control over everything? No, but I don't want. I'm not gonna, I'm not revealing too much. But like, I just think that there's a lot of things that people don't know, and there's a lot of things that people just assume are Troy decisions that maybe weren't, and some things that people think were Arn decisions that maybe weren't. Like I think overall it falls on all of them. I don't think Troy, was handicapped to where that's why he didn't do his job well. No, he made some pretty bad decisions as well. And I think some decisions maybe fans don't really even know. So it's like there's blame along everywhere for this organization and how it's happened. I will say this though, just for Arn, I did want to make this known. The thing with Arn and the whole connections, and I know like one of the things I've seen a lot of people in the Pistons community talk about is like the idea of nepotism with like Arn and the organization. All I can say is there some like concerns with some of those things within the organization? I think it's fair to have some concerns about it, but when it comes to like Trajan and other players, people need to understand at a certain point, without going too far, that he was a major agent for a long time, and he ran a major agency. Like he's going to have connections. I'd have to believe to like 80% of the league. Like that's just the fact of the matter. When you're that big of an agent, you're gonna have connections quite literally everywhere.
Yeah.
And so it's not gonna be crazy to all of a sudden, in 2001 he had dinner with this player. Like it's not like that's not crazy. It's like that's just how the job works. So I'm not shocked that he has connections with Trajan or anybody that the Pistons bring in, to be honest. It's just a matter of, in every front office, how you get players and people, you have connections, somebody, like that happens. It's just a matter of, okay, well, your connections work out. And so far, obviously, 4 years, it hasn't worked out. But
exactly. That's what I was getting ready to say. It's like the few connections he has had, it's been bad. It's been bad. The first one I pointed out earlier in the show was like the John Lure contract, but there's been many situations like that. So when you hear a connection to Arn and you're a Pistons fan, automatically I'm just like, no, like, God damn it. Like, I was pissed. You saw the video I put underneath when you initially put him as a candidate.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it.
And
look, I think it's completely. I do think it's completely fair for Pistons fans if you see like connected to Arn to immediately say, "Oh God, okay, well let's hope this one works out." Because like you can't hide from the fact that the last 15 years have been terrible for the Pistons, and that the past what has it been 6 years since you've been like with the Pistons? Arn 7, 8 years.
Yeah,
like, they just haven't been good. Like it's been terrible. So. Like having questions about how the connections he does have, whether they'll work out, that's completely fair. I just think when it comes to Trajan, it's a little different because he's proven himself and he's paid his dues. He started off as a scout. He was an assistant GM, I believe, with the Spurs in 16, took the job as GM at the Pelicans in 19. I think like the Pelicans have been a good team. If it wasn't for injuries, I think they probably could have done something by now. So I think their roster construction has been pretty good. Obviously he was working with David Griffin with that as well, but I just think that I think Trajan has a little bit more to bank on outside of just connections with Arn. Like I know one of the connections that people mention is like Buddy. Like that's like that one is more fair to me because it's like, okay, what are you banking on? Like he played in the NBA, he wasn't very good, and then like you're just doing it because of connections. Okay, that's fair. But like Trajan actually has paid his dues and has a good track record so far. So that's why I'm not as sweating it like with Trajan, but I get it. I understand it.
Yeah, and like we talk about connections, and that has been a big thing that I've seen all over Pistons Twitter. Like Triangle Land Rover obviously built a great team with the Pelicans. They talk about the Wings and potentially bringing over a guy like that.
You
from
guys
the
have these names like on paper, like going off
like a Brandon Ingram or a Trey Murphy or a Herb Jones. Like, could he bring one of those guys with him? Please tell me we're just not going to see Tobias Harris, and it's going to be that. Like,
we're not going to see Tobias Harris.
Okay, so what I will say at this moment that I I wouldn't rule out Brand. I'm not ruling out any of these players at all. Like anything can happen. I wouldn't be shocked if any of the things happen. I would just say temper some of the expectations with Brandon Ingram right now.
Yeah.
I would say that I would say to connect some dots that it didn't sound like New Orleans was too, anxious or too excited to give him a supermax or whatever the max extension, and we're looking to move him. So getting a guy from that organization, I would say maybe doesn't immediately point to he was so eager to then trade for him and give him a contract as his first move with the Pistons. But I wouldn't rule that out. I mean, I think I don't see the Pelicans wanting to move off like a Herb Jones or a trade. Like that's not going to happen. So I don't think he's going to bring any of those guys. If anyone, it would be Bi. But when it comes to Tobias, I think you guys might be a little mad this offseason.
No way.
Oh no!
So, like,
no! Oh no!
I mean, Tobias, it's the noise around him has kind of cooled down since like March when it was like really picking up to the Pistons. But no, I still think he's very much in play for the Pistons. And I think if they did, it's going to be like at least things can change. Like his performance in the playoffs might have changed some of the contract stuff. But if I had to guess, if they were to sign Tobias, it'd be like a 2-year deal, 1+1 maybe, like $30 million a year just to soak up the cap space.
Oh my god! Oh,
Pistons Twitter hated me yesterday. If we are on air and they ink Tobias Harris to a contract,
so
I might not be able to come back.
Wait, so let me ask you guys this: why do you guys not like Tobias?
The money you invest
for his production.
Is he a Michael Tellum client?
I'm not sure. I wouldn't be able to say.
All right, let me find out he is, and that happens. It's over for
the connections for Tobias go outside agency. He has family here. He still has connections. He still comes back here in the off season. Like so he likes Michigan. He comes back here regularly. So I think the connections are deeper than an agent.
Once upon a time, I liked it. It's just like where's the money fall at? I guess for me, type of situation, especially with like the aprons now with the new look, like NBA salary cap. It's not the same as it used to be. That's not a guy I want to take a big chunk of what we got going on,
So I understand that, but I want just to give a little further explanation with the money stuff. If the Pistons were to sign Tobias Harris to I don't think I shouldn't have said 30 million because 30 million is a lot of money, but yeah, it's a lot.
It'd be over for trapping on lactation. Let that happen. Let me tell you.
That is a lot of money. But
Tambourine Listerine wouldn't be ready for that.
Realistically, he probably will be overpaid a little bit if he comes with the Pistons. But the idea behind it, which is why I don't think it would be a big deal, is it would be one of those situations where you're signing him to a short-term deal to soak up the cap space. Because I had Keith Smith, he's a contributor over at Spotrac on the podcast, talking about the cap space situations. And the way in this new CBA, what they've built is they want like the higher spending teams and the lower spending teams to not be this far apart. They wanted them to be like closer. So like you can't head into the season with like so much cap space left over like that. It will immediately turn into cap holds and you'll have to pay it nonetheless. So if the Pistons enter free agency and maybe they strike out on this guy, or maybe they get a good deal on this guy for cheap, whatever, they need someone to soak up cap space. The thing is, it's like you can sign Tobias to a short-term deal. You keep the long-term flexibility. And also I think what people may not realize a lot of the time is that you need big salaries to do trades. You can't just trade, rookie contracts for max contract players. The salary just won't match up. So having like a $30 million expiring or a $25 million expiring to attach to a guy, that makes it more enticing to do deals with. I think the big problem with Tobias or anyone the Pistons were to sign is not so much the short-term money, because the short-term money you can move around, you can trade. It's still attractive contracts because it's short-term. You can make it a expiring contract. It's the long-term money. If you're giving Tobias like $25 million for 3 years, okay, now you got a problem. Like that would be an issue. Long-term money that tries to, really handicap you long-term, that's an issue. Short-term money, it's not as much of an issue because you can move off of it and do a lot of stuff with it.
I want to talk about that too, with the trades and acquisitions.
Was it the trades?
What was it? The trades? Jaden Ivey. Obviously, I've had a long storied record with not beef. I don't mind Jaden. I just like the fit. I didn't like the fit. That's all. What do you see breaking off from this roster to acquire some veteran leadership or just a veteran piece? Like, which one of these young guys is going to get you the most off the market, and who do you see being, I guess, the first to go?
So I've seen your back and forth with like Pistons community for like Jaden Ivey.
Yeah.
So to back you up a little bit, to help you out just a tad. Now, I'm not going all the way to saying I don't think Jaden Ivey could never fit to a guy next to a guy like Cade. Like, at his best, I think maybe he could. But I don't think it's out of the realm of, like, I don't think it's crazy for someone to say who's not a defender, who was in the 14th percentile this past year on spot-up shots, that you're bad at defense, you're not hitting open threes, oh, that guy may not fit next to Cade. Like, I don't think that's some crazy thing to say. That's first.
Thank you.
But second,
He hates him. You heard it here first. No,
I think there's a few. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit my mic. But there's a few pathways that the Pistons are going to discuss taking this offseason. So the first pathway will be like just keeping the young guys and adding through free agency. Maybe get some guys that will maybe bump them down the priority list. Like maybe Duren and Ivy are backups, and they go and sign guys that will be starters and kind of like reduce their load a little bit. I'm not a fan of that opportunity for many reasons. I don't know how much time I got, so I don't want to take over your guys' show.
No,
so,
go off, man. Listen, I am honored to have you as a guest.
Yeah,
go off, man.
Okay, so the problem with the first path for me, and I know this is a path that a lot of Pistons fans want to take. It makes sense. Like there's logic to it. I'm not saying any of these situations or pathways are terrible, but I am not a fan of it because if you're bringing them off the bench, I think they serve more value to the Pistons as a trade chip rather than someone that's playing 20 minutes a game. Like, I don't think that they're contributing more to winning as a 20-minute per game player than they would as a trade chip to get someone back that could play 30 minutes. Like, I don't think the value equals itself there. And I also think if you play them, like if you reach the halfway mark and Ivy and Duren are playing like 20 minutes a game, I don't understand how their value would be higher than it is right now. Like, I'd have to assume the value is lower because they're not like you don't trust them to be playing a lot of minutes. So like I from a value perspective, I would rather move off of them if your plan is to just bench them. I'd rather just trade them for somebody that could help you immediately then, if that's what you're going to do. But okay, so that's the first pathway. The second pathway is this is like the worst case scenario is that you just kind of like run it back and give them the same responsibilities, which would be absolutely terrible. I don't think that's going to happen. And then the third pathway is you use Ivy or Duren and the pick to try to go get something to help you, build a winning team. And I think that's one of the pathways that they're probably going to strongly consider this offseason because this team is under immense pressure from the fans, season ticket holders, players, the front, not the front office, parts of the front office, and their peers. They're under pressure from literally every angle possible to be good. Now, does that mean they're going to go out there and mortgage their whole future to be a 40-win team? No, that's not what they're going to do. But can they sit back and allow another 20-win season? Hell no. Like that, you can't have that happen. So they're under immense pressure from every single angle, and read into that how you want. They're under every single angle to put a better product on the floor this offseason. It has to happen. So if you're looking in that perspective, what's a better way to do it than packaging a fifth pick in a weak draft and one of your young guys that maybe you're not as high on anymore to go get somebody that can help you win immediately? I think that's something that they're going to strongly consider. Whether they end up actually doing that, I can't say for certain right now. I don't know. But I do think it's very much on the board of something that's going to happen. I think the two main pathways is either you do that or you say we're going to try and continue to thread the needle, which is something I think that they've tried to do for years now of we're not going to give up any young guys, but we're also going to try to be better in the short term. Like we're going to try to be better this year, but we're not going to get rid of any of the young guys. And that hasn't worked for 4 years. Like I would not continue to do that. So I would go more aggressive. But either way, yeah, I think it's possible that they move off of one of these guys in the fifth pick to get somebody. And if it was me and I had to choose one of the young guys to move off of, it just depends who's available. Because for me, I'm higher on Duren right now than I am Ivy. But the thing is that maybe, yeah, exactly. So it's like I don't know. It depends who you're getting. Like if you can get a center, then you probably want to move off of Duren. But like. It's tough. It's really tough because Duren probably fits the best with Cade. Does naturally like his kind of play style just fits with Cade, but it's also like okay, do you think Duren could ever be good defensively? Because he was atrocious this past year.
It was bad, yeah.
He was just flat out horrible. So if you don't believe your center can be good down the line defensively, then you have there's really no future for him being impactful. And then it is with Ivy. Do you believe he can eventually fit with Cade? I don't think so. I'm out. I'm out on Ivy right now. I know Ivy is loved by Pistons fans, and this is not me saying I don't think Ivy will never be a good player in the NBA. I think it's probably likely that he becomes a good player in the NBA.
I'm with you.
It's just that he's not. He's not. If I had to pick a player of what I want next to Cade, it's not Jane Ivey. Like, that's not what I would pick. So, and I think that this offseason is all about make Cade happy and build around Cade. And I would just get like better fitting players. Like that's what I would do.
What about the guys that we got last year? Do you think any of them stick long term, like Fontecchio or Quentin Grimes, or any of the guys they cured by moving their older pieces?
So I think Fontecchio is 100% coming back. I was at the exit interviews this past like 2 months ago, I think, or maybe last month actually. And Simone Fontecchio, when he was asked about his future with the Pistons, like his face lit up. He was giddy. He's talking about how he wants to return to Detroit. It's all he cares about. He just wants to come back to Detroit. He's going to sign a long-term deal here. That he's let the front office know he wants to sign a long-term deal here. The feeling's mutual, and that will be the main focus of the offseason to get a deal done. So I'd be like, I'm willing to bet my entire bank account that he's like on the team next year after signing a long-term deal. So Fontecchio, I think for sure he's coming back. I think he's the best fit. Like that's probably one of the best moves Weaver's done, like in his 4 years, getting Fontecchio. He was great. Grimes, if I had to bet, I'd say he's back, but I wouldn't say like it's 100%. Things can happen. I think his play style fits next to Cade, but the problem is like he dealt with that injury after being acquired by the Pistons, so you never really got to see a full look at him. He does have a bit of a track record, like some history you can bank on him being a decent, good to good 3-point shooter and a feisty defender. So like that's the kind of player you'd like next to Cade. So I don't think they're going to like bring him back to be the starter or anything, but I do think if I had to bet, I'd say it's likely he returns, but I'm not as sure on him.
Cool, man. I appreciate you taking the time. If you guys haven't heard the young man before, he's live weekdays, actually every day, if I'm not mistaken, on Locked On Pistons.
Yep, sadly.
Hey, plug your stuff, man. Let them know what you got dropping. Plug the Keith podcast, too. That sounds interesting.
So I got Locked On Podcast, the host of Locked On Podcast, obviously for Locked On Network. I just recorded an instant reaction episode to Trajon Langdon getting hired. Also have an episode coming out tonight with Ant Wright talking about the 2024 draft, how weak it is. Is it actually as weak as people think it is? Who should the Pistons select if they stay at 5? Where some interesting trade back scenarios. So got all that stuff coming. I also got some cool guests coming on the next week or so. So go ahead and check me out over there if you haven't already. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Appreciate you so much, Coop.
Appreciate you, man. We should get you on more. Thank you, brother.